Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of DIY Quick Crafts with Miss Abigail from the Harris-Elmore and Genoa Libraries. Today we will be making a rustic book pumpkin, something that looks a little bit like this. So this is perfect if you have an old book lying around, maybe it's a little tattered, torn, or just something you're not interested in reading again. We found this one in the back so you can see that the cover's ripped and some of the pages are ripped. So this is perfect because we are giving this book another life rather than putting it in the trash. We will need quite a few supplies for this adult craft. First and foremost, you'll need your book, a pair of scissors, a hot glue gun, some Elmer's glue, some orange paint, a paintbrush, somewhere to put your paint, a stick for the stem, an X-Acto knife, and a piece of cardboard cut to size. So first of all, we do not need this cover or the back cover, so we can begin cutting those off. I'm probably going to get rid of this one too just because of the sticker, although that may not even show after I cut. But, perfect. All right, once I have my covers cut off, I'm going to take my handy dandy stencil and I'm going to align it up to the edge of the book. So once it's aligned with the spine, I'm actually going to leave room down here because if I put it all the way to the bottom, it would just be a little difficult to get my X-Acto knife right down there and very tedious. So just to help me, I'm going to move it up a little bit. And once this is all cut off, we can just cut this off, cut the remainder of the spine off with our X-Acto knife. So now I just begin to trace around my pumpkin stencil. I recommend doing 1 or 2 pages at a time. The X-Acto knife I'm using is not the sharpest, so it is better to take your time rather than trying to dig through a bunch of pages at once, and then it becomes a little rough of a cut. Okay. See, mine is a little rough down there, but that's okay, it gives it character. Then you'll just begin to tear off, and if you need to go over it again, you can see where your cuts are, and that is quite all right. So this craft is a little time consuming, but trust me, it is well worth it. Okay, one down and about 300 more to go. Before I cut any more, I did forget to take off this spine part, but I recommend doing that because part of this will show. And if you like the spine, you can leave it. This craft can only be done with a paperback, and unless you tear off the cover of your hardback, but I would tear this off too. It's probably going to be a process here. But for me, I only want this white part showing, not any of this black. Okay, so once you're completely cut through your book, it's going to look something like this. And like I said, there's going to be some excess here, and there's probably going to be a lot of excess here. So me personally, I'm going to cut this off. I mean, if you didn't want to use the stick, you could definitely use this as your stem, where it's all book, and it's actually quite cool looking. But I will use my stick that I found outside, so I'm going to cut the excess of this off and this off. All right, so this is what it looks like with the cut off excess pages. And while my hot glue is warming up, I'm going to start bending my book to create a crease in the spine so it can go all the way around to make it stand up and look like a pumpkin. I have my stick and I'm going to find what length I want it and what side I want it on. Or I guess what end I want to use. I probably want to use this one because it doesn't have the little nubs on it. It's going to stick a little bit better. And what I found by doing this craft last week is you want to peel off some of the bark so there's not a rough edge. It's like the smoother edge of the wood underneath the bark, and it will stay a lot better with the hot glue on your spine. All right, now that I have my stem a little bit roughed up here, I'm going to take my hot glue, put it on my spine here. I'm going to take it the desired length that I want it to show, and I'm going to stick it on and hold it until the glue dries just a little bit. And now it is time to start gluing, so I'm going to flip the book over where the spine is up, and I'm going to glue these two back pages together with some Elmer's glue. There is a little bit of work that goes into this part because you're going to have to hot glue closer to the stem, or closer to the spine or the innards of the two pages to kind of make it into the circular shape that a pumpkin is so it can stand up. And if they don't align, that's quite all right because we will paint it and all of the pages will eventually show up into a circle. Then this part doesn't really have a formula to it. It's quite random. I just go a few pages in and I start gluing 2 or 3 pages at a time together and then leave some loose pages in between. All right, now we have to shape our book so it's not so front heavy, and we're going to give it some volume in the back. So this is where you're going to sort through some pages in the back and put some hot glue right down the spine and just glue it right there so your page stays open and it fans open, but we're going to give it more volume in the back. Also, a little technique that I found to be quite helpful, instead of gluing every single page, I took a page and bended it back probably about 1/4 of an inch, and then I creased it. Just to make it stay right there and give a little bit more volume to the back. I would recommend that you do this probably every other, or you could do 2 in a row, because if not, you're going to get a crease in your pumpkin that will be quite noticeable. So I usually switch it out with the hot glue and then the creases, and then the hot glue and then the creases. It also helps to continue to manipulate that spine to bend it a little bit so some of those pages stay on their own towards the back. You can do this in multiple fashions, like so. This is what my pumpkin looks like with a combination of glue and creasing and manipulating. So you can see where there are some open spots right here. So that's probably where I'm going to continue to glue and bend just to fill those. And then there's another one right back here. All right, so over the course of it being up, when you display it, it will start to fan out even more. So right now it's actually looking quite good. So I'm gonna begin painting. I just take some orange paint and a paintbrush, and then I'll slightly graze the end of the pages just to give it an orange color, but I'm not going to paint all of the pages completely, just the edges of them. And there you have it, the perfect adult-friendly craft for the fall season.